You know, technology is changing pretty much every part of our lives. And now, it's finally coming for one of the biggest, most stressful transactions you'll ever make, buying a home.
So let's just ask the question right out of the gate, a question I'm sure many of us have screamed into a pillow while drowning in paperwork. Is the whole process of buying a home just completely broken?
Well, whether it's officially broken or just ridiculously complicated, the good news is that there are some really smart people working to fix it. Today, we're going to look at 4 innovations in PropTech that are tackling the biggest pain points in real estate head-on.
All right, so let's start at the very first hurdle for so many people, just being able to afford a place. This first section is all about finding new ways to get your foot in the door and solving that huge affordability puzzle.
The big idea that's really gaining steam is co-ownership. And it's hard. It's a pretty simple concept, right? You get multiple people, friends, family, whoever, to pool their money and buy a place together. It's basically an old idea, but with a brand new tech makeover.
But, you know, as anyone who's tried to split a complicated dinner bill knows, sharing money can get messy fast. And that's exactly where a startup called Joynt steps in. They're building a platform specifically to handle all the tricky operational and legal stuff that comes with owning a home with other people.
Okay, so let's see how they actually do it. Joynt has 2 main options. There's a free basic plan, which gives you a central hub for your property and some simple tools to keep things organized. But where it gets really interesting is the Pro tier. For about $49 a month, they help you create an actual LLC for legal protection and even automate all the payments and expenses. This is the key part. It turns a casual handshake deal into a real protected business partnership.
And this quote from Joynt's founder, Brett Humphrey, just nails it. He says Joynt brings clarity to chaos. And that's so important because it's not just about buying the house. It's about solving all those little day-to-day headaches and giving you the legal and financial safety net to make sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart.
So you figured out how to afford a home. Awesome. Now for the fun part, actually closing the deal. Our next section is all about making that process way simpler by cutting through that mountain of paperwork that everyone absolutely dreads.
And wow, this slide really shows you the difference. On the left, you've got the old way, these super dense, confusing legal forms that are just begging for you to make a mistake. But on the right, you've got a new tool called Breeze from a company called SkySlope. It throws out the jargon and asks simple questions in plain language. It's mobile-friendly, and it even pulls data directly from the MLS, so there's way less room for error. It's a total game changer for a really painful part of the process.
And get this isn't some tiny niche tool that nobody's using. That number, 12,000, that's how many real estate professionals in Hawaii alone now have access to Breeze. It just goes to show how fast the industry is jumping on these kinds of technologies.
SkySlope's CEO, Tyler Smith, kind of hits the nail on the head here. He points out that in a market like Hawaii, trust and simplicity are huge. And that's exactly what tools like Breeze are designed to do. Make the whole thing feel more transparent and way less scary for everybody.
Okay, so we've talked about new ways to own a home and new ways to close the deal. But what's the one thing powering all of this behind the scenes? It's data. I mean, tons and tons of it. This is the real engine room of the entire modern real estate world. Think about it. Every single Zillow search you do, every report an agent pulls, every single automated home valuation, all of it runs on these absolutely massive data sets. So the next 2 innovations we're going to look at are all about making that data easier to get and, more importantly, easier to use.
First up is a company called Atom. The easiest way to think of them is like the data utility company for the entire industry. They provide the raw power, the direct pipeline of property data that feeds all the AI models. We're talking property details, automated valuation models, or AVMs, which is just a fancy way of saying an AI's best guess of a home's value, and the whole transaction history. They're building the pipes that feed the industry's brain.
Now, if Atom is providing the raw data, this partnership between Local Logic and Rechat is all about turning that data into a story that an agent can actually tell. They take all this information and quantify the vibe of a neighborhood, giving it scores for things like walkability, how quiet it is, or how close the nearest coffee shop is. This lets an agent create super specific, really compelling marketing material with just a few clicks.
As the CEO of Local Logic says, we all know location is everything, but it's actually really hard to describe that consistently. And here's the brilliant part of their strategy. They're building this location data directly into the tools that agents are already using every single day. That makes it totally effortless for them to show off a property's best asset, its neighborhood.
All right, we've covered affordability, we've covered the transaction, and we've covered the data that makes it all run. So for this last section, let's pull all these threads together and figure out what this actually means for your next home purchase.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that the home buying journey itself is being completely rewritten from the ground up. These aren't just 4 separate, cool new tools. They're all interlocking pieces of a new, faster, and much more transparent way to buy a home.
Here's what that new journey could actually look like. Step 1. Maybe you don't buy alone. You use a platform like Joynt to team up and pool your resources. Step 2. Your agent doesn't just find you a house, they find you the perfect neighborhood using that hyperlocal data from Local Logic. Step 3. Closing the deal is faster and way clearer with a digital tool like Breeze. And finally, the whole time, behind the scenes, everything is being powered by those massive AI-ready datasets from a company like ATTOM.
And this all brings us to one last, pretty provocative question. As technology continues to streamline every single step of this process, from finding partners to signing the final papers, you have to wonder, in the future, will your next realtor be a person, or will it just be a platform?